Good morning, everyone. You're very welcome to our webinar this morning. I'm Jackie Howell, and this webinar is designed to be pitched at managers. So it would be helpful if you are a manager working with a team, or if you are someone who's actually helping other managers to coach and manage their teams effectively. You might find it sort of helpful to hover over your active view option at the top of your lap or your view here, so that you can sort of see the presentation in side-by-side mode, and you don't see your own sort of picture or video on screen. Okay, so everybody very welcome, and thank you for joining our presentation this morning. The agenda that I have planned to cover is to look at mindset in this particular environment, in this particular sort of period where we're having to deal with a different way of working, and that mindset shift that will help you be effective in managing your teams going forward now and into the future. I'm also going to share with you a future pacing technique, which I know you'll find helpful. I've used it many times in the work that I do to actually visualize and plan for how you can work to achieving something that you want to be successful with in the future. And I also want to leave you with a commitment to do something as a consequence of actually taking the time this morning to be part of this webinar, and something that you can take that's a tangible benefit and something that you can apply in your work today and also sort of as you go on. So for most of us, things are out of balance right now. We don't know what and when things are going to happen, and how it will affect us both personally and professionally. So a lot of uncertainty, a lot of challenge in terms of how we're dealing with the current crisis, and that's having an effect. So we're all in this together. We're hearing that sort of day by day, that people are striving to be supportive, and that we're looking at things because, you know, once in a lifetime, sort of, I suppose, in my lifetime, a time when things are happening to people at the same time, and mainly in the same way. But even though we have similar issues and challenges, we also have different issues to cope with and circumstances to manage. And it's really important to be able to remember that, and remember that actually it isn't the same for everybody. And there are things that are going on for people, challenges regarding their family, school, trying to school children at home, maybe a sick relative, maybe someone's even died in their family. So important to remind ourselves that actually our own situation, our own expectations, our own values, our own way of thinking about things may be affecting the way we believe and are conscious of that people are thinking and feeling, so that we distance ourselves from just our own perspective, and that we're able to step into the shoes of how it might be different for others, and particularly in the context of this presentation and this webinar, different for your team and for each member of your team. So now I would like to invite you on a journey into your future. A little bit different in terms of the context for this webinar is that I want you to have some experience of what your future will be like in relation to how you want to impact your team and your own success as a manager. But first, a little context. What does your team need to experience from you right now? They need to have confidence in your ability as a manager. They need to witness your competence. They need to feel that you trust them. And they also need to feel and experience your compassion for them and their circumstances. So confidence, competence, trust, and compassion are the key things. Yes, there are many other things that will be important, but I believe these are the key things that will make the difference. Understanding, therefore, and connecting with what's going on for each member of your team is vital. You don't have to have all the answers. It's not important it's not important to be able to have all the answers for everything that is happening for your team. And important to know that, so that actually you can be comfortable not knowing, but doing something about it, as I will share as we go through this presentation. So worth remembering, something that you already know and that know is important. There are always things out of our control, and focusing on these is not much help right now or in the future. Choose to focus on things within your sphere of control or influence, and focus on managing your response to things. This is something that we all know and we've heard lots of times, but particularly important at the moment. So as I said, I'd like to share with you a future pacing technique, a technique that is based on an NLP, neuro-linguistic programming technique that allows you to imagine what success would look like in a future situation that's important. So it allows you to have a way of preparing for that important event. And that important event is Thursday, the 29th of October 2020. It's 6 months' time. 6 months from today. You're sitting down with your manager to review your management effectiveness during the COVID-19 crisis. Your manager has gathered feedback from your team in preparation for this important meeting. And the areas that are up for discussion are mainly: how effective was your communication? How did productivity show up and be effective within the period? How productive were your team? How productive were you? And what about professional development for your team? Did you take the opportunities, even though it was, and probably still will be, a challenging time for you, for your team, for the business? Where have you noticed the opportunities to help people grow? What feedback will you be pleased to receive? Stepping up to be the best manager you can be for your organization, for yourself, and for every member of your team is the goal. So think about it now. What impact will your specific management approach have made for your team? What impact will your management approach have made for your team during that 6-month period? This is a question I'm going to help you actually answer right now. And that's where the future pacing technique comes in. So let's start with the impact of your communication. As we know, communication is one of the most important aspects of how you manage yourself and your team during this period. Without clear communication, nothing else will work. So I would like to invite you to take just a minute or two to write down 3 key things you want individuals within your team to say about the effect your communication approach had on them during the crisis. So what would be your desire that the feedback that your manager has got from your team has been such that you feel it worked? So 3 things, and state them in positive language. So what you've done, not what you haven't done. Always best to focus on the positive. The brain doesn't necessarily take in negative messages, so don't think of a pink elephant. What do we think about? So write your 3 key things in a positive frame. Okay. So here are some ideas that might support some of the things that you've already written in terms of ideas to work on further after this webinar. So some things like that might be of help. The information and guidance my manager shared was clear and transparent. So how many of your team will be able to say that about what you have or how you have performed? She was calm and reassuring throughout the period. She told us what she knew and was not afraid to say she did not have the answer, but always explained what she was doing to try and get the answer. And that's really key that, as I said on an earlier slide, you don't have to have the answer. Maybe the answer is not there yet. We're seeing that day by day, that there are things that just cannot be answered right now. What people want to feel that they've been able to express themselves, they've been able to ask the question, and that they've been heard. She checked in with the team each day at the same time. This was really helpful and meant we could plan our workload around this meeting. So for a lot of people, and I was listening to the news last night, for a lot of people, they're working in a crazy way. They're working longer hours. They're not having to travel, but yet they're working longer hours because their schedule is disjointed. They're feeling like they should be available. They're maybe not organizing their daily actions clearly at the start of the day, or maybe they feel that they're missing out on stuff. They need to be sort of constantly on email, checking for stuff. So really important that you as their manager have a way of checking in each day. She was empathetic about how my families were doing and how this was impacting me. You know, that whole piece around compassion and connection with your team, not just the whole team, but each individual member. People are different. People want to be understood. They want to know it's okay because they have a lot of things going on, and they want and need you as their manager to hold that space for them, being understanding and connecting with that. She connected with me directly and really listened to any concerns I had, helped me focus on working smartly and not on always on mode, invited and welcomed ideas I had to make things work better for me and the team. So this whole idea of really listening and using a coaching style, asking open questions, and that we're all in our busy lives running from different meetings, different priorities, that we generally, and I can speak for myself, generally, we're in listening to respond mode. And especially this with your team, they have a concern, it's immediately sort of trying to fix it. Remember, listening to understand and not to respond is where an effective manager is at the moment. They're listening to understand. You can't respond if you don't fully understand. And your feeling of anxiety and your feeling of managing this is going to impact your ability to stay connected and to listen. So they were some of the things in terms of communication, some ideas. I mean, you know, obviously not comprehensive, just some ideas that I felt were worth sharing, but they're specific and they're stated clearly, and that's what you need for your objectives in terms of the results that you're looking for in terms of this meeting in 6 months' time or whenever you're going to have it. We're working on 6 months' time at the moment. Productivity is on my mind. That's what the feedback is coming from managers who are surveyed in terms of like, what is the one thing that really is making you have sleepless nights or are concerned about? And it's about having confidence that people working at home are actually going to be productive. So I want you to write down what you want your team to say about how you help them to do their best work during the crisis, their best work. What will they say that you have specifically done to help them achieve their best work? So take a minute or two to just think about what you might want to scope out further after this call, just some key words to help you. So again, some examples. She explained in a way that made sense where work demand was high, realigned our objectives, and organized the team to be where we were most needed in the short term. In February, we knew what Q1 and Q2 would look like. When things looked very different and we needed to change our focus, she gave us tangible targets to strive for, explained what a win looked like now. Although we had to take on some bad news and difficult forecasts, she also recognized our achievements and we found new things to celebrate. She helped me to prioritize my workload activity so that I felt productive most days with an approach that worked best for me. She clearly reassigned tasks and responsibilities that helped me and the team achieve what was needed right now. she was patient and acknowledged it was difficult at the start to drop work that I'd put a lot of effort into and was previously deemed important. And I think that's a challenge for a lot of people. Something that they've been working on, they're proud of, and now it's gone. For some team members, though, it may not work for them just to be in survival mode. Maybe their circumstances allow them to have more time. They're working at home. They haven't got a family, young children. They haven't got the difficult circumstances. And they want this to be something where they can look back on, or they can use their time to grow. So write it down what you would want your team to say about how you help them grow in competence during the crisis. And you might be thinking of particular people even at the moment that might be thinking this way and feeling that they actually have to energize themselves. They need to have a focus on how they can actually evolve and grow and develop during this period. That's not going to be the same for everybody. Not everybody will want to be able to even contemplate growing. It may be that there's some reflection at the end of the time. Some people, success is surviving. But as I said at the start, we're looking at sort of surviving as the baseline, but you can thrive in difficult circumstances. And this is an opportunity where growing and becoming more effective is possible for some. So some ideas, even though I did not feel like doing it at first, I benefited from my manager's suggestion to work on wider development areas, which helped me to be more effective in our new way of working. We're all having to learn new things, learn new ways of working, working on Zoom, working out with different technologies, checking in for a team meetings in a different way, managing our work schedule, maybe sort of, there's a lot that listed endless. What does your team need to be better at when they're working remotely? Because working remotely, I think, and it's clear from the discussions that I'm having certainly with clients and hearing feedback, that people will want to bring the learning and bring the opportunities and bring the possibilities that remote working is providing in terms of a more blended way of effective working. So something else that might be said, she helped me capture the learning I had about my own self-management and capabilities during the period. Being encouraged and given the opportunity to support and share my knowledge with other team members felt good and reinforced the competencies I want to maximize and grow further. There will be people in your team who are more than willing and more than capable of maybe buddying up with some other member of the team or sharing knowledge with the team and support more generally. But maybe someone, you can identify someone who might be struggling and someone who actually is modeling an approach that might be helpful for that individual. So having that open discussion that we're all in this new situation. For some of us who have worked remotely in the past, maybe there's less of a learning, but there's always the opportunity now that it's more common practice that you can look at ways to share knowledge within the team and across other teams, of course, as well. So we're just coming towards the end of the webinar. And the call to action for me today is that you think about 6 months from today. You think about how you're going to feel on the 29th of October or the future date, where you're sitting down with your manager and you are sharing what you feel proud of in terms of your achievements. You're sharing your communication achievements, your productivity, your professional development for your team and for yourself. And there will be other things that you will add to that. And that in doing that, having this plan stated out in terms of what you want that meeting to look like, you then have a focus for what you're going to do between now and then, how you're going to be between now and then. And also, maybe it's something that you might like to share with individual team members. What are their plans? What if they were to think 6 months on? What will they be saying about their performance? What will the others be saying about how they have contributed, behaved, achieved during the period? So this model of, and this exercise can be used for you and for your team. Most importantly, you've got to look after yourself first. You've got to recognize that you're the manager, but you're in the same circumstances as everybody else. Who is supporting you? How can you have a conversation with your manager to make sure you're getting your needs filled? Ask for support. Share your ideas and your learnings with other managers in the organization. What's worked, what hasn't worked. And be mindful of those full aspects of yourself, your physical, your emotional, and your mental. Look, we've only had half an hour this morning. I hope it's stimulated some thinking. I really hope it's also stimulated some commitment from you to engage in some action as a consequence of joining today and taking the opportunity to be here today is a demonstration that you're already in a positive space. You're already in a doing mode. You're already taking a step to make sure that you're going to be successful. So I'm going to say thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. If we had more time, we could have more questions and all of that good stuff. But Carly, my colleague, whose details I have on the screen just now, is available, and with you see her contact details regarding any questions or any follow-up in relation to how we in the Right Management team might be able to continue to provide support, encouragement and guidance during this period. So thank you very much, and I hope that I get the opportunity to connect with you again in the future. Thank you.